most assemblies like this, the first thing they would have done down there with the colored people would have everybody stand up and sing, lift every voice and sing. Well, what I'm going to ask this whole new reconstructed assembly of the universe is to sit here and listen to it, done in a brand new way, by somebody many of us are already proud of, and the rest of us will learn to be proud of. And when he is finished with Lift Every Voice and Sing, I would like this assembly to stand up one more time and tell our history thank you. Lee England, lift every voice and sing. Dr. Pamela Smoot of the Black American Studies Program, Professor of History at SIU, will now introduce our guests.
Now, for many people, history is the most boring subject that has ever been taught on the face of this earth. How many of you agree with that? Some folks during history class, they write love letters to their boyfriend. They doodle on the paper. They sleep. And some folks snore while they're sleeping during history class. Folks look up at the ceiling and look for answers when the professor calls on them. There are never any answers on the ceiling. But I must say, I love history. I have a passion for history. And it's because of history, especially the history of black folks, that I exist and that I can fight battles because of people like these. When I was in graduate school, I tried to fight every battle. And I didn't always play fair. You know, I used to throw food on white people when they made me mad. It's the truth. Turn the cafeteria out. 500 people, all different nationalities. They didn't know what was going on. They were just looking like, ah. But at any rate, you know, and I just didn't do the right thing sometimes. Okay, so I'm just going to chew you out and get it over with. But that's not always how you handle things. Because see, when I turned the cafeteria out, all of the black professors knew that it was me. And they was like, sister, you can't do that. Sometimes you just got to walk away. Okay, and I did learn how to walk away. It took me a long time to figure that out. But I did learn how to walk away. But again, it's because of folks like me that I'm able to behave in a manner that is appropriate. Okay, Minnijean has told me that she has turned out a cafeteria in her own capacity. But at any rate, Father Brown had mentioned earlier about how they went through hell. So we have a short video clip to show you what hell was like for these people. Okay, and that's just in case you don't know the history of Little Rock now, but that's because you haven't been in my class and a lot of the high schools don't teach that, okay?
Dr. Walter Wendler is the Chancellor of Southern Illinois University in Carbondale. He has a schedule today that is almost as busy as theirs. So he came here to welcome them, to make a formal presentation. He represents this university and speaks for us, and it is an honor to have him here to welcome our guests quite formally.
Work that the Black Alumni Group does on the campus, its efforts to bring harmony and opportunity to people of all kinds, and we really do appreciate that good work that gets done here. I would like to say that that this organization, and I think many of you know this, is not a perfect organization by any stretch of the imagination, but it has had a long history of commitment to what I would call the civil and appropriate treatment of all people. As a matter of fact, the president of the university for many years, Delight Morris, Dr. Delight Morris, on one occasion when people of color were denied access to the lunch counters in downtown Carbondale on the Strip. Many of you know, you all know what I'm talking about, I know. Dr. Morris told those merchants that if you deny access to any of my students, I'll deny access to all of my students. And that kind of leadership, I think in many ways is still alive here at Southern Illinois University, Carbondale. Makes me very proud to be part of it. And it's resident in so many people on the campus, so I'm not even going to begin to name them. Although I will name one because I work very closely with him every day, and that's Dr. Seymour Bryson. A tremendous aid to me as I've tried to understand this community and the culture of it, the people that make it up, its history, and from my perspective, most importantly, where it's going. You can't understand where an organization is going unless you can see where it's been and where it is, and then you can draw a line and see what the future looks like to some extent. And Seymour and many others, but Seymour in his official role with me has been exceedingly helpful in trying to help articulate the kinds of things that are important to the whole university, and I appreciate it very much. Today we're very honored to have three of the Little Rock Nine with us. You know, we have finished just recently a long-range planning process called Southern at 150. We're trying to help determine what this university should look like when it reaches its 150th birthday, which will occur in the year 2019. So this is a kind of a long-range plan, a look into the future. And one aspect of this plan is, as we look at student life on the campus, what are the kinds of things that we want students to engage in? What kind of people generally? Of course, we'll have mathematicians and historians and teachers and architects and lawyers and engineers and doctors and so on, and all kinds of people will leave this institution. But is there any common foundation for all of those people? Are there some things that we would like to see everyone have? And of course there are. There's all the basic learning in core curricular matters and that sort of thing. But one theme that came up in the Southern at 150 is this idea that we would like to produce citizen leaders. Citizen leaders. As our graduates leave, they would be well acquainted with knowledge and learning in an area that they choose to study in. But on top of that, they would be citizen leaders. They would take that knowledge and apply it to the greater public good. Now, before we had this program, there are people, obviously, who were citizen leaders, and we're going to honor three of those right now. Because these were people who saw a need, who stepped in, who had the tenacity the determination, the courage, the will, the willingness. They had those characteristics that allowed them to step out and step into a need that they saw. And we've had the good fortune to have 3 of the Little Rock 9B students, and now graduates of Southern Illinois University, Carbondale, and we're very proud of that. And I know they've already been introduced, haven't they? We've already. No. Oh, good. Okay. Well, then I have a little bit of introduction that I'd be glad to do. I didn't want to wear you all out. First, I'm not sure what order to do this in, so forgive me if I've somehow have mischosen the order. But we will do. We'll start with ladies first. At any rate, that's usually good. Is that all right?
Yes, that's
okay.
fine.
Good. Minnijean Brown Trickey. She was expelled from Central High in February 1958 after several incidents. One. Did this one have anything to do with a bowl of chili? Yeah. Including the fact that she dumped a bowl of chili on one of her antagonists in the school cafeteria.
5 antagonists. What'd she say? The cafeteria?
Cafeteria.
She moved with her husband to Canada during the Vietnam War protests of the 60s, and today is a writer in social work in Ontario. Winter Star Productions is presently filming a documentary of her life. Ms. Trickey, please come forward. And it says on here, and I think they're very true, courage continues to inspire new generations.
Oh, that's very nice. In 1957, some of those images you saw of those beautiful young people, they were the first images almost of African Americans in any of the media, like television was new. And those black children were the first children seen by people in the U.S. and around the world of black children, with the exception of alfalfa and buckwheat. So the significance was the shift, these beautiful kids marching across in front of the school were the first to be seen by the world. So that's why we had such an impact on the rest of the world. And you guys remember, we got letters from all over the world. Now I know it's hard for you to think of no black images on television because life has changed considerably. But just for a minute, imagine those kids and everybody getting to see them. So that was really important. But the other thing I think, based on what I'm told, is that we inspired a world full of young people. So I'm getting accolades from people who, actually Mandela said the Little Rock Nine inspired him. So it's chilling to me. I'm getting chills when I think about that. But imagine, just like you, a little bit younger than you, or maybe your age. So I think it's about opening the world up for children to be a part of social change.
Okay. Thelma Mothershed-Wair. She graduated from college and then made a career of teaching. She lives in Belleville, Illinois, where she is a volunteer in a program for abused women. Ms. Wair.
That you have a lot of qualities. You can be a leader. Don't be a follower. Don't let other kids tell you what you can do. So he tried not to do that, but then he went to the Marines. He got a lot of training in the Marines, and he learned a lot of discipline. I thought when he went to the Marines, boot camp, I thought he'd come back and clean up his room. Basically, I cleaned up after he was gone because we were having guests. He came back home, he and his wife had left her room next to that was when he was a teenager. What I did wrong. Tell me what I did wrong with my son. Anyway, he knew that I had gone to Central High School. I asked him, Scott, do you think he would ever go to Central? He said, no. He said, well, if I can't say something to me, it's been on. It's been on. We've been duping. I said, Scott, there were 1,800 of them and 9 of us. Would have lost because I couldn't fight. I couldn't sit there and cry or something. So I said, hey, there comes a time I have to contact your brain, not your fists. Use brain power. That's what I told my son.
Dr. Terrence Roberts. Following that historic year at Central, his family moved to Los Angeles where he completed high school. He earned a doctorate degree in teachers at the University of California at Los Angeles and Antioch College. He is also a clinical psychologist. Dr. Roberts?
I'm sitting here learning as you talk, and it's wonderful to hear that. I would just like to underscore and underline and echo a lot of those sentiments, because I think young people often feel perhaps they don't have a place at the table. But yeah, young people are necessary. I tell young people today especially, I am indebted to you because I'm going to be off the scene soon. You know, we are promised maybe 80 years of life, roughly. The lifespan is about 0 to 80, right? Some of you, if you get to 80, count on your space being vacant very soon after that. And I'm not saying this to frighten you. No, that's just reality. And I am in my 62nd year. So that gives me about 18 more years. So you're going to be in charge of doing things for me, you know, wiping my brow, feeding me the pablum, whatever it takes. And so I want you to be aware of that and take that responsibility seriously and run with it. And there is no end to what you can do, to what you can become, to what you already are. Believe that. Okay.
When I was listening to, some of the conversations that were going on, with these 3 people and Father Brown and a couple other people, I heard Phyllis say, Phyllis, stand up, please. This is Minnijean's sister. Phyllis told me a very brief story about how she had to give up her sister because her sister had to leave, and about 16 years had gone by. So I thought maybe we could have a conversation about some of those sacrifices that you all made in the process of integrating Central High School.
It's about life. When you choose A, you automatically do not choose B, C, D, etc., etc. Why is that important? Well, because your choice means that you have selected out of the universe whatever the option is. All the other options are gone. They're no longer available to you, which means choosing wisely makes some sense. For us to choose to go to Central High School, as an example, we had to sign an affidavit, a legal document, that we would not engage in any extracurricular activities. Now, those of you high school students who are very active know what that means in terms of sacrifice. You give that up. But when you choose to operate on the front line of desegregation, sometimes you give up prom night or a rap session or whatever it is. But that's all right. I'm not even going to go there. Okay. I was talking to a group once of young people, and they wanted to know what I thought about rap music. And what I said was, it seems really bizarre that you would juxtapose those 2 concepts, rap and music. And I got myself yourself into big trouble. So sometimes you sacrifice relationships with other people when you take a position different from their own. Sometimes it's necessary to be able to choose to turn right when 50,000 of your peers are turning left. That becomes very essential, and that often is seen as a sacrifice. May not be. You sacrifice opportunities to do the kinds of things that, quote, other people do, ordinary day-to-day things. But in the long run, I think the payoff is obvious, that you gain a sense of self-respect, and you gain a sense of the vast importance of doing the kinds of things that may not seem so popular, but are so very necessary. Yeah, thank you.
I'll tell you something, rather than sacrifices, I'll get to those at the end, but I'll talk about some gains. And one of the things that was, we had a very short session with Reverend Lawson, who taught us some principles of nonviolence. And at the time, I didn't get it. I mean, I got it. But it didn't hit me until later in my life. And part of the time when I was in SIU, I was kind of going down to Tennessee and getting arrested, put in jail for sit-ins and stuff. But I mean, you don't want to know that. But the whole idea of nonviolence being a force, our idea, yeah, I know you wanted sacrifices, but I think this is the idea that force, meaning something that can shift or can move, we don't think of it as nonviolence. We think of it as guns and missiles and planes, and they all cost about $1 trillion each. Nonviolence is free. It's absolutely free. There are six principles, which I won't tell you about now, but go on the internet and look at the 6 principles of nonviolence, both from Gandhi's perspective and Dr. Martin Luther King's perspective. And for me, that's the most powerful force. Because in the use and comprehension of nonviolence as both a way of life and a way of making change, I also transformed personally. And I think that's the greatest thing in the world, my personal transformation. So I want you to, gee, I don't want to lecture, but it's a really cool thing. And we just got a snatch of it in 1957. And in truth, I think we learn over time. And it was, you know, one day the bell rang and I understood the significance of it. So that was something to be, as Terrence said, 50,000 people are going that way and 10 million are going that way. Well, I've always been the one who went the other way. And when I talk about nonviolence in this violent society, our primary value is violence, then I'm obviously going the wrong way. And maybe there's Terrence, Thelma, me, and 5 or 6 other people, and everybody else is going that way. So it seems as if it's a sacrifice. But I can sleep at night. And I think that's a really important thing. So it seems harsh to be a nonviolent person in a violent world, but actually it's pretty cool. So in terms of Central itself, the sacrifices were leaving my family because I did get expelled, because I did drop Chile, okay. Okay. Enough already. But, and it was accidentally, non-violently, on purpose. But I'm a person, okay? So to me, that was a great sacrifice because I did love these other 8 people with all my heart. And I knew that when I got expelled, that the stuff that they were getting 9 people with was now going to be for 8 people, which meant that was a lot more. And my sister, who swears that she had to learn how to dance with a doorknob. It's true. But in the final thing, that is the thing. The whole idea is that in some basic way, you have to be really careful, and you have to recognize that sometimes you get punished for going the other way instead of that way. But hey, you can take it, okay?
What do you think about heroes being just ordinary people?
Well, you already answered the question. No, we were not. We were very ordinary. Thelma, Melba, and I were best friends. I used to live next door to Elizabeth. I was in grade 6 with Terrence. Competed my he's so smart, right? I was in grade 6. I was constantly competing with him. He doesn't know that. I was trying to be as smart as he was. So, we're very ordinary, extremely ordinary.
Yes.
Although, yeah. So, and heroes, we wouldn't be heroes if the people hadn't behaved in that badly, in that manner. And in fact, all we wanted to do was go to school. So, I think one of the lessons of that is you might be called upon to do something you didn't think you had to, but when you are, you've got what it takes to do it.
Yes.
Ever, any of you ever considered not continuing in that environment?
Every day.
Yeah, all the time.
So were you then encouraged to remain with the counseling?
No, I think it's just self-talk. Realizing that even though there was great fear and a reluctance to return, it was necessary to go back. The job was not yet complete.
How the parents encouraged you. And I think I'd just like to say that they also, I'm sure, went through a lot. And they should be commended. But could you give us some ideas of some of the things, the way they supported you?
Well, I told my mother the day after we signed up to go to Central. She said, "You crazy? How can you get around that school? You with the bad heart." I said, "I think they'll be all right. They'll make provisions for me." They didn't, but anyway, I made it okay. So I went to Central even though they didn't want me to. I knew that any time I in the morning sometime, yes, if we want to go back to Horseman, some mornings like my throat was dry. Because I didn't want to go to Central some mornings. Because I knew that I'd be ignored all day, not having anybody smile at me most of the time. So just go to class, look sad face, just go do what best you can and go back home that evening. So it was not a good year, but still, we stuck and stayed.
Stuck and stayed.